Welcome to the Progress Zone podcast, where we help you create real momentum in your mindset, business, health, and life. I'm your host, Jody Donaldson, and every week we'll explore the small, intentional steps that lead to big, lasting growth. This isn't about hype, it's about habits. So let's get started. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to the Progress Zone podcast. Today's conversation is about something that quietly affects every area of our lives, but often doesn't get our attention until it's already a problem. I'm talking about our health, not just pain relief, not just fitness, but alignment, how your body supports or limits the way you show up every day. My guest today is not only a great chiropractor, but he's also my fraternity brother. Dr. John Connor is the owner of Corrective Chiropractic, and his work focuses on helping people stop reacting to pain and start addressing the root causes that lead to it. He helps people take ownership of their health, build sustainable habits, and create bodies that support the lives they're trying to live, not fight against them. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks. So grateful, so grateful to be here. Glad to be here. And, anytime I can share the message, of health, but specifically chiropractic, because most people just don't know really what it is. I'm always happy to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it's going to help a lot of people. But for those that may not know you yet, or take us back a bit. Where did you start your journey and what led you into chiropractic care?
Sure. So, growing up, my dad was a salesman. He worked in Manhattan. We lived in South Jersey, Southern New Jersey, and he would take this bus into Manhattan every day. And, just doing sales and he worked for a company that published and sold law books. And, I had a great childhood growing up. And then, we're into sports. I loved playing, football and hockey. As a matter of fact, I grew up with a professional hockey player that lived just down the street.
Oh, wow.
So I had quite the childhood experience. It just seemed normal to me. But I met pretty much all of the Stanley Cup Flyers from like the 1973, 74.
Oh, that's so cool.
When they won, because they would come over to his house, and here's a guy who he lived down the street from me. I went to school with elementary school with his kid until, they moved back to Canada. He got another coaching job and stuff like that. But it was just like, that was kind of like, it didn't seem crazy out of the question. So, one time he asked me, hey, we're going to go over to my friend's house, my friend Wade's house. You want to go? I'm like, sure. And it turned out to be Wade Clark. So Bobby Clark, who was he was a superstar. He was like the superstar on the Flyers at the time. Was like, oh, we're going over to his house. So I went over to his house, and he had it was like the nicest house I'd ever been in before. And then he had the Flyers emblem pool in the backyard. So got to do that. So anyway, so it's like, playing sports and stuff. And then we got into, and my dad had first seen a chiropractor because my dad was like 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. And we had one of the first, like Honda Civics when they first came out. And so it was this small car, and he started developing back pain. Well, medical doctors, the story that I got was like medical doctors wanted to put him in traction. And my dad's like, I can't do that. Like, I have to sell, like I have to be out and about all day. So that's when he started seeing the chiropractor. And then it just became, okay, well, when my mom suffered from migraine headaches all growing up. I think that's what subconsciously pushed me into doing this, and I'll get into that, the specifics of what I do, but my mom suffered from migraine headaches. So it was, again, part of my normal childhood where it was like, you guys have to be quiet because your mom has the headache, right? And she'd be out, and lights had to be out, and you had to be quiet, and she might get physically ill, that kind of stuff. So anyway, so she started seeing the chiropractor, and then I'm the youngest of three. So my oldest, my brother, again, playing sports, then he started seeing the chiropractor, and then my sister would go. And then when I was a freshman in high school, so I was 15 years old, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I started having hip pain, and this was playing soccer, high school soccer. And again, I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not the strongest guy, but I was pretty fast. I was pretty quick. So this was definitely hindering my ability to run. And so, well, the thing was, okay, well, we're going to take you to the chiropractor. And it was just such a cool experience because I knew like I didn't want to handle and do anything that needed, like had blood or anything. I just can't handle that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just super clean. It was just such a cool experience where he's kind of evaluating me. And then I'm on the table and he's kind of feeling my spine, and he could tell. He'd be like, all right, what's more sensitive, number one or number two? Like feeling on my spine. I'd be like, man, how do you know that? And, I started getting adjusted. And again, the pain went away. But it was like, I didn't fully get it. And so, again, I'm 15 years old, right? So, but I don't remember hearing this message of the full chiropractic story. I don't remember hearing that. It was basically like, oh, you're out of pain now, so my parents stopped taking me, you know? And, I can't remember. I think my dad stopped going, and, my brother and sister went on and off, but it wasn't like a regular thing. But anyway, it was at that point where I just said, and so I asked the chiropractor, I'm like, so like you can make a living doing this? And the guy kind of laughed. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. I'm like, I want the big house, the nice white fence, and I want the, Porsche in the driveway. And he goes, well, you can have whatever you want. Like, yeah, if that's what you want, like, yeah, then you can do that. I'm like, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do then. So I just decided right then and there, that's what I wanted to do with my life. But I didn't like really look into it. Like I didn't like say, oh, I'm going to go spend time with a chiropractor. I'm really going to research this thing. I just was like, I'm going to become a chiropractor. And that was it. And I just thought it was a clean way of dealing with musculoskeletal, like a natural way of dealing with musculoskeletal. Because I was raised in the medicine cabinet, just like everybody else, right? Yeah. My mom was on drugs for her migraines and would take drugs for, like sinus infection, so I grew up in the medicine cabinet. I would get sick at least once or twice a year, When I went away to college, I actually had a whole drawer dedicated to like sinus medication because I had recurrent, sinus problems. Yeah. So, that's just what it was. And so, in college, there was no pre-chiropractic degree. So it was either pre-med. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do pre-med because I don't want to be a medical doctor. Right. So it was like the next best thing was being a bio major. So, and that was rough, man. It wasn't until we got to the human anatomy stuff. That's when I was in my thing, but all the other stuff was not. So it was rough just to get. Yeah, it was just rough having to get through college, botany, and you're doing all this stuff. So, it wasn't until, between college and chiropractic school, like I took a year off after that, and then, I got a full-time job and I was doing prereqs because I found out that with my degree in biology, I still didn't have all the prerequisites for chiropractic school. Gotcha. So I had to take a year to fulfill those prereqs. So I'm working full time and then I'm taking like college courses at night, organic chemistry and physics.
Easy
yeah, that was not fun at, 22, 24, whatever years old. So, so then I decided I was going to go to chiropractic school in Atlanta, which was, where my parents were from. I was living in Orlando at the time. My dad got a job with Disney as soon as I graduated college. Nice. So I moved to Orlando, and then it was only like a 6-hour drive from Orlando to Atlanta. So I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. And it was the largest chiropractic school in the world at the time. Very thriving, group of people. They had just got university status, so they were doing other degrees besides chiropractic. Like you could get a degree in, nutrition, clinical nutrition, and this other stuff. And so it was just a really thriving campus, had a great sports program, and it was unbelievable. And so now, once I got into chiropractic school, I'm starting to meet people. You sit down and they're like second and third generation chiropractors.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm meeting people that are like in their 40s and or mid 40s, and they're like, this is a new career for them because a chiropractor had so changed their life.
Wow.
They're like, I need to do this. And I'm like, I don't know what people are talking about. Cause I'm like, yeah, I had help with some hip pain, whatever. I hear about like back pain, neck pain, And it wasn't until they sit you down and they teach you the history and philosophy of chiropractic. And I can remember sitting there, and it was just like blinders had come off. This huge light bulb went off. And I'm like, why didn't anyone ever tell me this before? This makes so much sense, right? And so, in the years leading up to chiropractic school, I had these different health problems because, again, I wasn't seeing a chiropractor. I was working out, but I was still kind of just eating, whatever. And it's not like I was eating a ton of junk food, but still, I wasn't eating the way I eat now. I wasn't eating what I would say is healthy. And I started having just like weird health problems. Problems with constipation, weird rashes. I started having uncontrollable nosebleeds. And wow. It landed me in the ER one night. And, I had deviated septum surgery for sinus infections that didn't do anything. That really didn't do anything. So it wasn't until I got into chiropractic school and I started learning what real health was about. And then, the upperclassmen start adjusting the lowerclassmen. So it's like as soon as I got in, I started getting adjusted regularly. So I got x-rays taken, and then, you start going into what's called the student clinic, and the upperclassmen, start adjusting you. And so I hooked up with an upperclassman because you have to get so many adjustments under your belt. You have to get so many student adjustments under your belt before you can graduate to the outpatient clinic. And gotcha. Then when you're an upperclassman, you have what's called outpatient clinic, where you have to get enough people coming in and they get checked out, and you have to do so many exams and so many x-rays and so many adjustments before you're allowed to graduate.
Okay.
And so anyway, I started getting adjusted, and I just noticed that's when it wasn't overnight. It wasn't like a next week or a next month thing, but it was like, as I just continued to get adjusted and I started learning more about nutrition and everything, I started refining things. All those things just went away. Right. So
that's awesome.
And it's just been that process for me of continuing to educate myself and refine and, learn more about this profession that I'm in, and holding true to the principle. And I've just, my health has just continued to thrive. Not to say that I've never gotten sick again, but I'm just saying sure. I'm not on any medications. I've never been on any medications, where you have to be on them all the time.
Sure.
Thankfully my wife is I met my wife in school. We were on the same page when it comes to this stuff. And so therefore we were on the same page when it came to our kids. So both our kids were born at home with a midwife. None of our kids have been vaccinated, Yeah. Our kids were raised on, healthy food and all this stuff. And so, our kids never, not to say they never had any issues, but they never really had any longstanding, health issues and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of what it was. It started from kind of simple beginnings. And it was just one of those things where I'm just like, oh, this seems really cool. I'd like to do this. And it wasn't until, I actually got into school where it was like now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get it. And it was game on. I made Dean's List the first quarter I was in school, because it was like, this is what I struggled to get to. This is why I went through 4 years of college, to get to this. Because now it's all about what I wanted to do and where my passions kind of lie. It just kind of took a little bit to get that out,
Well, it sounds like, I mean, that alignment was at the right time, right? So like you said, we think we have it all figured out or not figured out, and we're just going through it. But it sounded like at that time when you made it into the school and started learning and saw it and the light bulb went off, you're like, this is it. Then I feel like that, that passion aligns with, where you need to be at that moment. And then, like you said, you crush it because you're passionate about it and you're excited about it. And I think that I don't know a lot of people get that experience, unfortunately, but I do think that the way it sounds with you, I mean, I love that journey. I mean, I think being exposed to chiropractic care early, just seeing how it's affected folks, and then, your own experiences and the results that you've gotten from it, I think is pretty cool.
It's interesting because when you're in school, you're in this, you're in this bubble of a community where everyone thinks like you do.
Yeah.
And so, you're all like talking chiropractic and everyone's adjusting each other and, you're all philosophically. And it's like, then when you graduate, that bubble's gone. You all go back to, your communities and everything. And it's like, you're fired up. You're like, oh, everyone's going to be under care. I'm going to tell the message. And then you realize like, some people just don't want to hear that message, Yeah. And the way it was explained to us, because I tend to be one where I feel like if I could just explain it well enough, people will get it and they'll want. But the way it was explained to me was, and this applies not just to chiropractic, but I think in anything, that you do where you maybe have to explain why someone should do something, or maybe why someone should have a certain service, is that you're in a burning building and there's like 7 floors. And you have to knock on every door to get people aware that there's a burning building. And you may knock on one door and, you tell someone and they immediately are like, thank you. And they get out. Right. But then you go to another door and they're like, I don't know. I don't see any fire. I don't smell any fire. I don't know. It doesn't feel hot. And you could stand there for 20 minutes trying to explain everything to this person, why they need to get out of the building. Meanwhile, there's 6 other floors of people and all these other doors that you have to knock on. So it's like learning when to say next.
Right.
Moving on, right? It's like I tend to, you could have 10 people who say yes and that one person says no. And you're like, you rack your mind over it. Like, why doesn't this person, like, what am I doing wrong? Why doesn't this person get it?
Yeah.
And
that could be for probably so many reasons, right? Like it's their background, the talk in their head, the negative self-talk, or the stuff that they've heard and the rumors and, the one-off cases that happen. I mean, it's like one thing ruins it for them in their mind. And then, like you said, it makes you think like, why don't they get it?
The biggest thing for me is, that people will they will pop Tylenol like it's Pez candy.
Oh, yeah.
Or they will like get on this medication that they've never read anything about. They have no idea what the side effects are.
Right.
Like today, like all these people taking GLP-1s, right? Like GLP-1s for weight loss.
Yep.
Right. And some of them are just like, they don't care about the side effects per se, but they'll look at that and they're willing to inject themselves with something. But then they go, but I've heard chiropractic, I don't want to get like paralyzed, or
right.
My doctor says that you should, you might injure me or get paralyzed, or, my brother's sister's cousin's nephew's older brother got injured,
by a brain hemorrhage from a neck adjustment, like,
and I'm looking at it. And of course I know all the safety data. And again, I could go into this long diatribe of trying to explain to people, like, do you realize how ridiculous what you just said is?
Yeah.
Or I could just be like, next, Yeah. So, I do spend a little time. I'll be like, if that was true, don't you think it would be like on every like news outlet, would be in every newspaper about chiropractors paralyzing people? Like, don't you think you would see that, right? And then I tell them, I'm like, how every doctor has to pay malpractice insurance? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, tell you what, you get your medical doctor to tell you what they pay in malpractice, and then I'll tell you mine, right? Because there's a third party unbiased insurance company involved here, and they're the ones who set the rates, right? Like, so, an insurance company doesn't care what you do. They just want to know what you do. Is it risky or is it safe? Because I'm like, insurance companies want to take in premiums and not pay claims. So I'm like, if something's dangerous or potentially dangerous, they're more likely to have to pay a claim because the person's more likely to be injured. Yes. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I pay nothing, like peanuts. Like any medical doctor would kill to pay what I pay because they know I'm getting hurt in my office, right? Now talk to them about theirs, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, they're like, oh, I guess that kind of makes sense. I never thought of it that way, right? But it's just, and unfortunately, little things like that can prevent someone from getting the help that they need and really just unlocking this potential of life that they just may never know exists,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that leads into, you work with so many people every day who are dealing just with discomfort or stiffness or pain, whatever it is. But from what you see, why do so many people wait until something hurts before they take action on their health? I know it could be some misconceptions they have, but why do they wait? And, how often is pain the first signal versus it's the last signal? Like once you're in pain, it's, it's way worse than if there were signs you could see early on.
Yeah. And I think it just has to do with the education. I'm not going to lay all the blame on like big pharma. Okay. But I mean, they have unlimited money, the deepest pockets. And so it's something like, I forget what it is. Like every 30 seconds there's a drug ad, or, maybe it's even more than that. But so we're constantly inundated.
More than that.
Yeah, it probably is. But it's just like we're constantly inundated, and we're only one of 2 countries in the world allowed to direct market drugs to the consumer. So it's us in New Zealand. So, but we're constantly inundated with that. Like, oh, if you have this, take this, right? And even when we're growing up, it's like, we're not taught, or at least probably I'd say the majority of people aren't taught preventative. They're just more like, oh, you have a headache, here, take this. Right. Or you have a sore throat, we need to get you on an antibiotic or whatever, right? So we're taught reactive, majority. So it's reactive. We're not taught proactive. But yet what I try to tell people is like, all right, do you go to the dentist? Because dentistry has this figured out. They were beautiful what they did. But it's like, do you go to the dentist when your teeth hurt? And I'm like, well, no. I'm like, oh, okay. So you go to the dentist even though your teeth don't hurt.
Yeah.
For checkup, because you don't want a cavity. Right. And they see, oh, it's time for x-rays. You're like, x-rays? I don't have, but we just go, oh yeah, okay. You know, because they're going to x-ray your teeth because you may have the start of a cavity which you don't feel yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to me, it's like, we need to do x-rays. You need to do x-rays? I don't know. I'm kind of worried about the radiation.
Right.
And I'm like, radiation? I'm like, you're going to get more on a flight to San Francisco. And last time I checked, they're not handing out
blankets.
They're not handing out informed consent forms before you board a plane. You're getting more radiation, on a flight. So, but anyway, so you go to the dentist and because you don't necessarily feel a cavity forming. It's only when it's gotten so bad that then you might feel the pain, right?
Right.
So they're checking. So that's the same thing. It's like people don't feel their arteries clogging. If they did, there wouldn't be any more strokes. What I mean? We catch them early. People don't feel tumors forming, right? So it's like not everything, there's not pain for everything. So what I try to educate people on is like only a small percentage of your nervous system actually feels pain. But we have to look at function, right? So like, last month or last year, my kid didn't have asthma, and now my kid's developed asthma. So what happened between last month or last year and now, right? Like, and then so many people are like, my dad suffered from this and his dad suffered from this. It's just genetic. And I'm like, okay. More than likely it's not. I mean, are there certain things that are, yes, but even the best have said it's a very, very small percentage. And so what we've learned is that it's epigenetics, meaning that you may have a gene for something, but that gene may never be expressed because of your lifestyle. So it's like your genes may load the weapon, but it's your lifestyle that actually pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can alter the expression of your genes through your lifestyle. Right. So it's more than likely it's people share habits. So it's like, oh yeah, well, I eat, Wawa hoagies and, every day. And my dad ate Wawa hoagies every day. And, it's just like you start to notice that people share common habits. It's not, that's what runs in the family. It's not like, it's like type 2 diabetes. Well, my dad had type 2 diabetes and his dad had type 2 diabetes. Yeah, because they probably ate a whole lot of grains, didn't work out. So it's like, it's not genetics. It's just you're sharing the same lifestyle habits as your predecessors, but you can change that if you want, right? Yeah. But we've just become so, again, educated to, isn't there a pill for that? So it's like when people have to put in the effort, it's harder. That's a harder commitment to make than I just do this one time, or I just take this pill, because it's the easy thing.
It's the easy button, right? The easy button. We just want to do what's easy, right?
Yeah, and they're just treating the symptom, right? So what I tell my patients is that pain's usually the last thing to show up and the first thing to leave. So just because your pain is gone doesn't mean you are better, right? We want to get to the underlying cause of why this started in the first place, right? I mean, I've had people come into me with like low back pain. And then, of course, I x-ray the entire spine. And then their neck is an absolute mess. And there's arthritis and degeneration and narrow disc space. And they're like, yeah, but my neck doesn't hurt. And I'm like, well, thank God for that. But can you not see this? This is not normal. This is slowly deteriorating. This is like a cavity forming that you can't feel yet. I'm like, sooner or later, that is going to cause you a problem. Now, you can either choose to take care of it now, or you can kick the can down the road and and see what happens.
And it'll be 10 times harder when the older you get, and it make it so much more worse, I think.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, it's again going back to those GLP-1s. That's the easy way out. I mean, those things. I mean, I even had my cousin. One of my cousins is a trauma doctor down in like rural Georgia. Okay, oh, wow. And she called me up after years of doing what she does. And she called me up wanting to know more about what I do and chiropractic and the philosophy, because she goes, John, I'm telling you, what I'm doing is not working. Like, we're just throwing drugs at people, and this is not working. There has to be something different. And I'm like, yeah, there is. And she talked about those specifically. She's like, you know what GLP-1s are, right? And I'm like, well, not really. And she goes, they paralyze your gut. They slow the emptying of this process of food emptying through your system. They slow that process so you feel full. You don't want to eat. But that's also blocking up natural processes, and people get headaches and nausea and vomiting and and different stuff like this. But again, sometimes people are willing to put up with that because it's the easy way out. You mean I don't have to exercise and I don't have to change my diet? I can just
I can eat Big Macs all day and just take a shot and I'm losing 30 pounds. Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
Well, and the thing too about that's a whole separate, I think we can go down the whole road on that. But, the biggest thing about that too is that everybody that's on that now, the longevity and functional fitness doctors keep saying that strength training is the most important thing you need to be doing. If you're on a GLP-1, you've got to be doing some resistance training, or because you're losing muscle. Muscle mass and bone density on those drugs. So, I mean, but that's a whole separate conversation.
Oh, for sure.
But, I talk about this a lot too. And I just, maybe it's just the way I think, but I feel like building a strong foundation is just so important, because I don't think we can progress in other areas, or it makes it much harder if we don't have a foundation. When you're working with patients, from your perspective, how does physical alignment affect things like energy and focus and stress levels or just overall performance. I think, like you said, they come in because my back hurts and to do the back, they feel better. They're like, oh, I'm done. But like those other things I've experienced, great relief and increased energy and better focus when I've done, preventative care and seen a chiropractor. So what do you see from your perspective on that, how that physical alignment just affects those things that are beyond just the pain?
Yeah. And thanks for asking that and kind of, again, reining me in and realigning me with this, what I want to talk about, which is the I think the key takeaway from today is, what did it for me, again, was without going into the whole history of chiropractic, but the philosophy is basically, okay, what's the master controlling system of your body, right? Like when you think of all the different systems and you have your musculoskeletal and you have your, cardiorespiratory and you have digestive system, reproductive system, immune system, you have all these different systems of your body, but they are not these separate, distinct entities. They are this one holistic thing, but it's under the direct reign of the nervous system. Okay, so my brain is the supercomputer, right? So, and then you have the spinal cord. You have to think of it as like, the information superhighway, right. like your cable line or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then off of the spine come all the nerves that go to every cell in your body. So every other system, every organ, every cell is connected to a nerve. So it's this, what we call the safety pin cycle. So think of it as you have these messages going out, and then it's like when I start to eat food, let's say, then like certain hormones are released, digestive juices, whatever, the body starts working and it starts breaking everything down. Like, and then there's communication back saying, okay, we don't need this certain hormone anymore. We don't need this digestive enzyme anymore. This process is completed. We can move on to the next thing. So there's this like symphony of information that's constantly going back and forth. And so we call it the body's innate intelligence, right? So what turns the acorn into the oak tree? What turned you from 2 cells in your mother's womb into the trillions of cells that you are now, right? So when you watch your child develop and grow, that's all happening without their conscious thought, right? The body is doing this on its own under this program of growth and development. And so we call that the body's innate intelligence. Like the body is smart. The body knows what to do. So for example, let's take a fever. If I get a fever, okay, one way is to look at it and you go, oh, you're sick. You have a fever, you're sick. We need to take this to lower the fever. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why is my body getting a fever in the first place?
Right.
So if once you understand more about the body and its physiology and how it works, you understand that is a natural process of, let's say germs like your current body temperature at 98.6. They're nice and comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So your body turns up the thermostat, turns up the heat to kill these things off. It is a natural process, and that's what needs to happen. But we take our educated intelligence and think we know more than our body's innate intelligence and say, oh no, fever bad. I need to bring this down so I can feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
But you're going against what your body knows how to do. And so you're just prolonging the process. So all we say from a chiropractic perspective is saying, I just want to make sure this communication is happening effectively, that your nervous system is functioning at its peak performance.
Sure.
And then, right. And then that fever is going to do its job and then it's going to come back down and that will help you. And then your immune system learns and grows and is able to get stronger. But if there is a interference in this communication between my brain telling everything what to do, and primarily where that occurs is right here at the joint where your skull meets your spine. And that's what we call the upper cervical. Cervical means neck, the upper cervical area. Because all the rest of the spine have these interlocking joints that restrict motion. But up here, you don't have that. So the bones have unique shapes. The top two bones in the neck are different than anywhere else in the spine. And so they have unique names, and they're also uniquely shaped. But there are no discs. There are no intervertebral discs up here. And there are no interlocking joints. So the top bone in the neck kind of looks like a donut with small wings on it. And it's called the atlas bone. And it sits under your skull, and its job is to balance the skull on the rest of the spine. Okay. And so we've heard of Atlas, held up the globe in Greek mythology, right? So because your atlas bone holds up your world, right? And so the brain stem is right there, and the spinal cord travels through it. So we don't have, it's like this gliding joint because we need to be able to look around and have all this range of motion, but we sacrifice a little stability. So think of like a child being born and coming through the birth canal. And sometimes they have to twist the head and bend and pull to get the baby out. So that can start the process right there, where that's a lot of pressure on a little neck. And what's even worse is now with the ever increasing percentage of C-section births.
Yeah.
So now the babies, again, that's a whole nother conversation, but there are certain things that have to happen, baby coming through the birth canal. But again, there's this pulling that happens on the neck. And that's, these are teeny tiny little joints that aren't fully formed yet, but that's what can start. But it could come from other things, like think of car accidents or slips or falls, or, you slept wrong or whatever. It can happen there where, again, this joint is out of alignment. And so it's putting pressure on the brainstem. Now, again, you don't necessarily feel that as pain. You may.
Right.
It can cause, headaches, vertigo, anxiety. I see people with they just have this anxiety. Not necessarily pain anywhere, but they just have this anxiety and they just kind of feel like something's off. But then what happens is when this is misaligned, let's say your head tilts to the side because the bone is misaligned. Well, your body is always trying to find center. So then your body will tip your body this way to try to bring your head more to horizontal. So then you end up having this head tilt, high shoulder scenario. And then you'll see things down the line that'll happen, like a hip that's unlevel and stuff like that, all because of this.
Wow.
So what they've shown, going back to your original question, is that now my body has to exert more energy. Like one of the most common abnormal postures we see is forward head posture because everyone's looking down.
Right.
Right. Now, the normal spine is that from the front, it should be straight, but from the side, like my neck should have a C-shaped curve like this. And then my mid back kind of reverses and my low back is kind of like my neck again. So I have these curves to my spine so that I act as like a shock absorber under gravity, because gravity is always trying to push me down into the ground. Right.
Right.
And so my head is like a bowling ball. It weighs between 10 and 12 pounds. Right. And so this thing sits up there. It wasn't meant to be held out here. It's like, you carrying your groceries or holding your child out here versus in here, you realize what feels better, right? So the more my head travels out in front, the heavier it becomes. Now I'm putting a lot of tension on this system, and I am loading my spine, the joints of my spine, with more weight than they were not designed to hold. So again, the body's smart. So my body will start to lay down bone. It'll start to degenerate an area and fuse it together, try to create stability. It's like pouring concrete.
Yeah, geez.
But we don't want that to happen, but it's like an adaptation process of the body. The body's like, look, this isn't normal. We have to do something about this. So you're working harder, like your muscles are under more. The more you get off of the center line from gravity, my muscles are having to work harder to hold me up against gravity. We don't necessarily feel that. We may feel it as like, tightness at the end of the day, but it's like your body's been working hard all day long. So if I have more more energy going towards that just to orient me into gravity, we have less energy available for other things like, metabolism and, and everything else. So yeah, it is this kind of energy sucker that we don't even realize.
Yeah.
But again, it's more about function. Pain is just that, like, how they ever show the iceberg poster?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, we have a lot of chiropractors use this iceberg poster where, we see what's above the water, but it's really only like that. Whereas the majority of the iceberg is under the water. So that's what we're saying. Like, yeah, you have symptoms that are sitting up here above the water, but the majority of stuff that's going on you don't see is below the water. So we want to get to the cause of it is like, you may have pains in different areas, but I know if I can get your head on straight, that's ultimately what's going to fix the problem. But, it's not this like quick fix of, yeah, but it hurts over here. Yeah, I get that. But, do you just want to treat the symptom or do you want to have to go after the cause? And so I'm talking about trying to get the head on straight to relieve pressure on the brainstem so that, again, my nervous system that's telling everything what to do is at its, the communication is happening with the least amount of interference as possible so that you have the best opportunity to heal yourself because you are a self-healing, self-regulating organism, right? Like the difference between you and a corpse. The corpse is laying on the table, you're here, but you have all the same equipment. You know what I mean? But if I cut you and I cut a corpse, which one's going to heal? Well, of course you are, right? And it's like, well, what's the difference? It's because you have this life force, that innate intelligence that's running the show. The corpse doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. Where I'm dealing with this. This is what we call vitalism. It is that, your body is smart, it's intelligent, it knows what to do. It just needs no interference.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Again, of course, we give it what it needs to thrive, which is, again, going into like, exercise or movement and getting into nutrition and getting enough rest. And yeah, of course, all those things matter. Like, chiropractic isn't a panacea or a cure-all, and it was never designed to be. But it's like, you are never, even if you eat healthy and you exercise, if you have interference in your nervous system, you are not going to be what you could be. There is always going to be something. Yeah, it's kind of like a rheostat on a light. Like over the years, the rheostat starts getting slowly turned down. Like if I was to turn this light down slow enough, you might not notice it for a while. And so people kind of get used to living with a dim bulb and they think this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Until someone comes and turns the rheostat up and it's like, whoa. And it's like, yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to unleash this healing potential that's within you. Yeah. It's just that, similar to exercise, you wouldn't go into the gym one day, lift weights and go, I'm good. Everything's good. It's like, no, your body responds to, like you have to do it more than once. You have to do it regularly. So it's kind of, the similar thing, this isn't just a one and done thing, but the idea is to get you so that, yeah, you don't necessarily need to be adjusted every time you come in. Right. But the thing is, we need to get this on and we need to get this stable to where your body can now hold it in a better position and, keep that brainstem free of pressure. Yeah.
And it's sending out all the right messages to all the right places it needs to go. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the most famous and, to put this into perspective is, I don't know if you remember Jim McMahon, who played, he was the quarterback for the Bears, 1985 Bears. Right. Yeah. And he, and towards the end of his career, he played for the Eagles for a little bit, but anyway, people have probably heard his story where he's had all these concussions and he's, has these neurological problems. And he was really bad. Well, he finally went to an upper cervical chiropractor in New York. This Dr. Scott Rosa is his name. And they had this special kind of upright MRI done where you could actually see the cerebrospinal fluid flowing
Oh, wow.
Through his spine and up to his head. And you could see where there was this massive retention of fluid where, it's like putting a cork in a wine bottle, kind of, And so the fluid was not flowing properly. And that's why he had so many problems, headaches and blurry vision and neurodegenerative problems. But he said he would get on a plane and he would have to like squeeze his head together because the pressure was so bad.
Jeez.
And so he finally went to an upper cervical chiropractor who took an x-ray specifically of this area up here. And he said, you know what? I've had x-rays of my head. I've had x-rays of my spine, but never that joint. They missed. It's like they were here, but they missed right here. And they weren't looking at it and they didn't really know what to look for anyway. So anyway, he said when he got adjusted by this chiropractor, he said it felt like a toilet flushed in his head.
Wow.
He's not ever going to be what he was, but he's way better. He's way better than what he was. Like he's doing way better than what he could have or would have been doing. Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then, I also sometimes I make the story about to guys our age, remember Christopher Reeve who played Superman in the Superman movies in the 80s, right? Well, if you know his story, he fell off a horse and he had what was called a Jefferson burst fracture. So he broke the top bone in his neck. Oh. So he's lucky to even be alive, or he was, he was lucky to have survived that accident. But as we know, it left him paralyzed, right? So again, it's not like he injured his lungs. He didn't injure his legs or his arms. He injured his neck.
Yeah.
Right. And, but again, he had all the same equipment, like his lungs were working and they just weren't getting the signal. Right. Does that make sense? So it's so that's taking it to the extreme. But let's say you just had pressure on some nerves that were going to, say, your lungs. And again, your lungs are not like where you feel pain, but you may notice lowered function over time, right? So it's like, again, you might start noticing, asthma issues, right? That, like, where did this come from? So that's,
we're out of breath going up the stairs, that type of thing, right? Like,
or digestive problems, where you're like, I didn't have these digestive problems last year, and again, not to say that it couldn't be some kind of dietary issue, but a lot of people are like, man, I've tried, I've taken probiotics, I've done this, but they're still having problems. And, and I find like they've got this, bend in this, they've got this misalignment where the nerves are going to their digestive organs. And it's like, is it possible? Am I saying that is it? I'm just saying, is it possible that there's interference in the communication between your brain telling your digestive organs what to do?
Right.
Well, would you want that to be clear? Yeah. So that's what a chiropractor should do.
Yeah.
It's not about putting you on a muscle stimulator machine and giving you a massage, and then, you just get racked and cracked up your spine. And then, they say, all right, go and, see you next week or next month or whatever. That is not chiropractic. That is what insurance will pay for chiropractic, right? But that is not chiropractic. And so, that's why I've, I am a direct pay office. I don't do nutrition. I don't do massage. I don't do anything because people already know what that stuff is. Yeah. But what people are lacking, what people don't understand, and what they really need in their life is a real chiropractic, principled chiropractic care. And so that is what I've tried to stay dedicated to throughout my career.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it is so important, that message of finding the right practitioner that's going to, look at the overall, how chiropractic can play into optimizing your body, right? And making sure that you feel the best you can feel.
Yeah. And I never, I've met a lot of doctors and I've met a lot of chiropractors who, quite honestly, I'm like, man, you're going to try to tell someone about their health. And like, you look like you need help yourself. Right. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, beyond just vanity, is I've always wanted to, like, I got to walk the talk. Like, if I'm going to be telling people, about a better lifestyle, well, then I need to come from a place of that I'm in this journey with you.
Yeah.
I don't just speak from what I was taught. I'm speaking from experience, right? So
yeah,
I've lived it. And so, I get adjusted every week, regardless of how I feel. I mean, sometimes I can't, sync up with, my doctor's schedule and, but it's like minimum twice a month. But that's now. I've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Right? Years. And again, it's not about pain. It's about, I want to make sure my nervous system, like that my spine, the spinal joints are moving the way it should. And that, my nervous system is as clear as possible. And then, I'm feeding my body what it's designed to get as far as nutrition goes, because, food turns into flesh. And, I want to make sure that I'm giving my body the best opportunity to heal and thrive. And, I try to get adequate rest at night. And, I work out in the gym. I caught that bug back in late high school, early college. And, at first it was just about getting girls, and then it just turned into like, I can't imagine life without it. Like, it's almost like mental therapy for me,
Yeah.
And it's like, they can't write a prescription strong enough to do what like exercise will do for someone. Right. So yeah, it's just, that. And I'm even, even now I just joined a group online called Function Health. I don't have any relationship with them, but it was, it's a functional health like group, because I knew I didn't want to go to my primary care doctor, because they're just not going to understand. They're just not taught this. They're not going to understand the body from a holistic perspective, right? They just know how to read a number and go, oh, the number's high here, you need this, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to go to a group where they were going to test more parameters and then take that overall. And you fill out your exercise, all your supplements you're taking, your, basically like how you eat and everything, and getting enough rest and all this stuff. And then they will look at that and kind of give me an action plan of how I can even progress further. So I just had the blood taken recently. I only have preliminary results, but I'm waiting on the full results. But just on the preliminary results, they say my biological age is 48, even though my calendar age is 54. Right. So, 6-year difference. So I guess I like to think I'm
doing something right.
Doing something right.
I love it, man.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward, to that, and even just keeping after it, because I know, I'm in this for the long haul. I still have goals I'm trying to reach.
Sure.
And I don't want, physically holding me back.
Right.
They say, the healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I wonder if that's healthy is first, because for that reason, like if you don't have your health, the wealthy will spend their wealth trying to regain their health. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
And then I would think if you have wisdom, you're going to know that, your health is your most important investment. So, so I just try to keep myself as healthy as possible, so that I can continue doing what I'm doing for the long haul. And, it's just one spine at a time, one person at a time, just trying to, help as many people as I can.
Yeah. And you're practicing what you preach, right? And I think that too, I think I want to focus on that point that you made, though. Like if you look at your chiropractor and they're overweight and on diabetes medicine and just not like they might know what to do, but they're not doing it themselves. And so when you go to someone, I mean, you think about it. I've seen funny memes of like, PE coach or PE teachers at elementary school, and they're like the worst out of shape people. And they're like, all right, with the whistle, come on, kids, let's run another lap. And they're like but it's kind of true, right? Like there's so many of those things where, and it goes to like, financial advisors. Do you go to a financial advisor that's actually investing and wealthy, or are they, grinding like everybody else? Like there's all these little things that I think that we are just brought into and sucked into, that it's just like we do it because it's there or because they did it and we were taught this. And there's so much of it that I think, and again, this is a whole nother conversation, but like what we're taught in school and things, some of the basic stuff that would keep people healthy and moving forward and progressing in their life and living optimization the way they should. It wasn't a focus. And I just feel like that was a huge missed opportunity. I hope that changes. I think we have a lot of momentum around longevity and functional fitness and things like that, which I think will be helpful. But let me ask you, and we're getting close on time here, so I just want to wrap up on a couple of things. But we're in a overload of information phase, right? Like we can get for YouTube videos, influencers, some good, some bad. People get overwhelmed and they start I think sometimes they just get paralyzed because they're like, I don't even know what to do. From someone listening who wants to be proactive instead of reactive, we've talked about a lot of things here and the effects of the work that you do. Are there one or two simple habits that somebody can start today just to better support their spine or posture and just overall health?
Yeah, I would say that, a few things like, one, recognize that it's a journey, it's not a destination. And that, it sounds cliche, but, they say how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and the road of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So it's like, without becoming overwhelmed with, I got to do all this stuff. And how am I getting to start? And like, I'll just start tomorrow. And it's like, just take a single step, So I would say, we're not meant to know everything. But, I like making connections with people who I can't know everything about everything as hard as I try. Like my gifts, my passions lie in health. And so I'm glad to talk to people about that. But there are other people who have, where they're more tuned into, let's say finances or, real estate or plumbing, electrical work, So I seek people out who know what they're doing in those areas. So it's okay to get help. I ask for help all the time. I just started coaching with, a chiropractor who's been where I want to go.
Yeah.
And this this identity and how I can better my communication and help more and serve more people. So just like you get a trainer at the gym or, I joined this Function Health online group because, I wanted to know more about my health. So I would say maybe look into just, make that commitment to find a coach in whatever is you're going to do. But I would say from a simple perspective, it's hard because, I like to learn about this stuff. So it's like, I try to give people whether it be other podcasts to listen to or books to read. And a lot of times they're like, I got so much going on in my life. I can't watch another podcast or read another book. But, I would say just decide. I think the biggest thing you need to do is just decide that you want to be, healthy. You want to be a better version of yourself. Yeah. And so whatever it takes to make that commitment, do it. A lot of people say they're too busy. And so it's like, we all have the same amount of time, and what I tell some people is I go, look, you're either going to make time for your health now, or you're going to be forced to later.
Yep.
So what would you rather it be? Right. Yep. I know someone close to me who's being forced to have to do some things where it's like, if you took time to take care of yourself before, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in. Right. Yep. So just make the commitment to, I'm going to make a date. I'm going to make a date with myself. Just like I put on the calendar that, I've got a meeting at 3:00, or I've got this place I have to be at noon, or I've got a call at 10, or it's like, block out that time for yourself where you make a meeting with yourself every day. Find the time, whether it means you have to get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym then, or or, chiropractors will usually be open later in the evening or early in the morning so you can get there.
Sure.
And again, office visits are not like these hour-long things. It shouldn't be, at least. So, just find that time, make that appointment with yourself, where, you're going to start, you're going to dedicate that time to, I'm making an investment in my health.
Yeah.
Right. That's probably the best thing that I could do versus trying to say, well, drink more water.
Right.
The different things that I go through on a daily basis, little mobility drills that I do as soon as I get up out of bed. I am on the floor. I am doing some mobility work to keep my joints mobile and working. Yeah. And then I guzzle, like one of these right as soon as I get out of bed. So I'm already starting off the day with hydrating, right? And then I do my daily devotion. I make that commitment like every morning. That's the first thing I'm doing is like, I'm doing my daily devotion to get my head right, and stay connected. What we say is that health comes from above down, inside out. It's not outside in.
Right.
So I'm trying to stay connected this way as well with my maker, my Lord and Savior, so that I can then connect with other people, this way, with people around me, and I can get my head straight as to, what my mission is and who I'm responsible for and things like that. And then, I've grown as far as, nutrition. I mean, I could give, if it's easier for people, I could give recommendations on books to read if you're interested, certain podcasts to tune into if you want to learn more about, health, that kind of stuff. Like you said, weight training is the best bang for your buck. I'm an old school, I grew up with Arnold and, all that stuff. So I'm old school.
Fitness, flex, man.
Yeah. So but no, weight training is the best bang for your buck. You want to transform your body. You want to maintain bone density, be able to maintain muscle mass, build some muscle mass, and just transform your body metabolically where you can burn more fat and everything. Like nothing will do it like weight training. There's just nothing that will do it. Not to say that you don't, walk or do some, cardio stuff like that. But I'm always happy to share my plan. I've been sharing it with some other fraternity brothers. I'm like, here's what I do, Monday through Saturday. I lay it out. So I'm more than welcome to share with people if they want to get in contact with me, or I can leave some kind of a written thing of like, look, here's what I do. I'm happy to help people find chiropractors, in their area, stuff like that. But
I think that would be a huge opportunity. And I think for anybody listening, and we'll put it in the show notes, but what's the best way for folks to reach out to you? Is there email, what's the best way to get a hold?
So it's just, so email is Dr. John, DRJOHN at corrective chiro, chiro.com.
Awesome.
So it's,
and we'll put that in the notes so folks
chiro.com.
Can reach out. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, man, I have so appreciated this conversation. I so appreciate the work that you're doing just to help people take care of themselves and ownership of their health. I think this conversation is going to help a lot of people. And I really hope some of the folks listening to, take it to heart. Like, look, this is just a tool in your toolbox of things to do to make you live a healthier, stronger life. And I think, I love what Dr. Peter T always talks about, the last 10 years of your life. Do you want them to be functional, or do you want it to be long, drawn out, suffering, painful, right? Like we're all going to have that final decade of our life, but what do we want it to look like? And so I think these are things, and this is kind of what this podcast is about. And my book is about, is just, there's things we could be doing every single day to get a little bit better. And I love your philosophy too. Mine is always be learning. Like I want to learn, I want to continue to grow. And if we're not, I think we're doing a disservice to our future selves. So I thank you for being here, man. I thank you for this conversation. And I wish you much continued success in changing lives.
Yeah, this is great, man. Again, thanks for the opportunity to to offer this platform, and I think it's great. And yeah, I look forward to future ones and really getting tuned into this. And this has been a reminder for me. Just stay at it. And like you said, do we want to live longer, or are we just going to die longer?
Yeah.
And that's where that's what we're in it for. But we're all on this journey. And yeah, continue to learn, continue to grow. And thanks again for this opportunity. And I wish you, all the success in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Well, and to everyone listening, if today's conversation gave you something to think about or something to apply or just something to reflect on, don't ignore it. Health is foundational, and progress starts when you take responsibility for what supports you long term. And remember, progress just isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, taking action, and getting just a little bit better every single day. We'll see you next time inside the Progress Zone. Thanks for joining me in the Progress Zone. If today's episode gave you a spark, share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a quick review. And remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. I'm Jody Donaldson, and I'll catch you next time inside the Progress Zone.